City Bell Chambers on June 26, 2024, 5:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor David Romero,
Please excuse them for a second.
Councilor Martin Martinez,
Present.
Councilor Barbara Casey. Here. Councilor Michael Montoya,
Present.
Councilor David Olivares.
Here.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. You'll perform.
Thank you. Please be seated.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I just would like to have a moment of silence for the hardships that our community has been going through. For the people that have put so many things together, our staff, our city manager, our mayor, and the councilors that support this whole effort, and making sure that our community stands strong and has the ability to have a good quality of life. Thank you for all those parties that have been working hard for this event to take place.
Thank you to all our citizens for their sacrifices during this crisis. We also pray and keep in mind those in the city of Hermoso, those people that have lost their homes to the fire. Thank you.
Mayor Pro
Please see the city manager, any changes or recommendations?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I make, due to the extreme situation that we're in now, I'd like to make recommendations for several changes and to permit us to get out. As weather forecast has shown at this point, we could have flooding. And so if I can make a recommendation,
That's our first one.
under Roman numeral 7, if we could please move the first 5 items. Each of these are appointments and reports. If we could move these 5 items to the second session in July.
First 5 items being
Yes, sir.
item number
Recognition.
7, ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. What else?
If I'd like to recommend moving item Roman numeral 9, police chief's report, to second session in July. Moving item 10, finance report, to the second week of July. And in section 11, presentations, if we could remove the presentation by Travis Martinez. This was a presentation on the diversion sediment removal project. And
Remove that or only have that?
remove that one and move it to second session in July. Move the presentation by Travis Martinez on the Lead and Copper Act to the second session in July. And I can also recommend under business items, category 13, if we can move items number 1, the discussion of the ranking of the top 10 infrastructure capital improvement plan, or ICIP, as well as item number 2, which is the associated resolution for infrastructure capital improvement. If we could move both of those items to the either a special session or the first session in July. Our consultant, Robert Archuleta, has been able to work with the state and obtain an extension for the city of Las Vegas. So we can submit that to the state at a later date. If I may also recommend item number 8, the update and possible direction of city investments. if that can be moved to the second session in July. That's it, sir.
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second. Second. First and second, those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, seeing none, move forward. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Moving on to public input, we have no public input this evening. So that will take us to councilors' reports.
Councilors.
Mayor Pro Tem, a lot of moving parts this entire week, and of course, beginning on Friday of last week, of course, with the flood and so forth. I just want to let the public know that we were reached. I think a lot of the council members were reached individually for different items. One of the big items that I kept getting calls for was making sure that we had bottled water available to the public. I was reached out by American Airlines, a gentleman that works for American Airlines, that his grandfather was charting the heat from Asian cleaners. And they were willing to pick up, fly it down quickly, pick up a truck and bring us some water. I don't know if that was followed through entirely. That information was given to Mr. Esquivel from Emergency Management. Coca-Cola, another company that reached out to me to allow us to bring water to our community. That was also coordinated with Mr. Esquivel. And I understand that Angie from the radio station got a call from Netflix to do the same. So through all this crisis, we continue to, to be humble about what we have, but there's so many people out there that are trying to help our community. So I do greatly appreciate all the additional help and resources that we can get. So just wanted to bring those to light. Thank you.
Casey.
Thank you. Most of the phone calls that I have received are from people who are concerned about the elderly and the community. They would like to know if there was a way that maybe water could be distributed maybe to the seniors center when they deliver meals to people. They might be able to take water also to people that are homebound and don't have anybody that can pick up water for them. Or there might be a special water pickup site for people who are related to or friends with the elderly to pick up water on their behalf. See what can be done. That has been a big concern. I did have a lot of people calling about that. And they would like to have advanced, at least the evening before the water distribution, they would like to know where it's going to be. There's one woman called me just before the meeting and she said, I have gone 3 times to get water. And I sit there and by the time I get to the, when they're giving out the water, they don't have any more. She said, I've already missed work, I can't miss work again, I don't know what to do. So those are the kinds of things that we need to try to help.
Thank you, Madam Casey. Mr. City Manager, can you really just briefly brief us on that situation, listing from utilities at senior citizen?
Yes, so Mayor Pro Tem Council, we did receive the calls and we're doing our best to make sure we hear and respond to those. I've made several calls in return as well. We have come up with a fairly significant list of seniors in the community that we are trying to deliver water as well as sandbags, just respecting their abilities. So that's something that has been coordinated and now through our emergency operations manager and will take place tomorrow. Also, I think with the PSAs, we've been putting out a lot of PSAs. However, they happen to be on the city website and social media, and it's not reaching everybody. And so we are trying to find alternative measures to get more notification out. We have it using local radio to get that out. But again, not everybody's listening to the radio or on social media. And And so we've started communicating a lot with just individuals in the community to learn who is in need, and from there we'll take steps with emergency operations manager. I think also the communication we've had with DHSC and Department of Homeland Security, we have not had a good tracking of who is actually picking up water and are they part of any certain part of the city. And so we're trying to improve that statistic so we can make sure that all areas of the city are getting water. I do want to call out too that the city of Santa Rosa came forward yesterday, gives me chills thinking about it, that they showed up and they have set up a water distribution center. I forget the park name, I apologize, I'll make sure. It mimics Go Highlands. And so that was a really nice thing because they brought the manpower to help give the water out. It didn't have any type of impact on our resources. It's phenomenal the amount of support we're getting. And so we're funneling all those donations, all of the requests for special needs in any capacity to the operations manager.
Do you have a phone number? You have a phone number, sure.
I may not have that with me, I'll try to get that, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roque. Yes, Mr. City Manager, told us that we will be devastated with the water on the west side. Do you have public works working on it or cleaning up some of the dirt out there?
Yes, sir.
There are some concerns, citizens that are in that area.
So Public Works has been out, they're very extended at the moment. I mean, anytime we have to put up road closure signs or do anything, like we were trying to protect the bridges or anything, transporting the water from the distribution sites to the storage facilities, it has consumed quite a bit of their time, but I do know they're working on the roads. It's just a slow process at this point.
Thank you. Anyway, I just want to thank our city employees, the city manager, FEMA, the governorship that's coming in and helping our city go to these devastations. It's been one of the biggest one I've seen here in this small town. I think we just gotta keep together and hold hands and work with each other. I want to thank everybody that's been doing a lot of this. Thank you guys.
My report would be that, I want to thank all the citizens for conserving water at such a critical time. We are still in a crisis. We're still working things out. People are working with all agencies. We're trying to not run out of water. And, I apologize in a sense to all businesses that we have to shut down. We are working, as a matter of fact, the mayor is right now to cover. And we are working with Senator Ed Ray's office, also with the governor's staff, to ensure that, try and see if we can ensure that these businesses get assistance right away for the losses, and also for people that are flooded, this last flood, see if they can be on top of this. So we are working diligently to see if we can get assistance to everyone. As far as water, Red also is having a battle down there, and we're competing a little bit for some bags and water, but we are getting it, and we're getting an additional contractor to come down and bring us some water too. So we're working on all those things. And again, I apologize on behalf of Mayor and Council for last week's meeting, special meeting, that our cancellations were speakers from this stuff. I hope everybody can hear us today. But I thank everyone for participating and abiding by the closures and so forth. Thank you. Next item, presentation.
Presentations, we have one presentation, and that is by Anita Sena, for the Petro Las Vegas Ranger District. The Forest Service speaking on the good work they've been doing and what their plans are with the Herman's Peak Cap Canyon Recovery Environmental Assessment. And would like to hear from the governing body on what is the critical needs of the recovery efforts post-fire. Sorry, the city manager has,
So-
update.
So I apologize for this one. Ms. Hina is actually out in the field and is not going to be able to give a presentation this evening.
And I apologize, I was on the phone, but they're talking to her and updating her on the situation. I'm sorry, council members, I don't know how much I missed that were unavailable. And that, she did ask about reading it. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to our consent agenda, items 1 through 4. I'm moving you to record. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Request approval of addendum number 1 to contract 399123 with Romantic Houston for water treatment plant facility, planning, design, and construction. Item 2, request approval of addendum number 1 to contract 399623 with Stantec Consulting for design services on sewer repairs and replacement projects. Item 3, request approval of addendum number 3 to contract 378321 with Molson Corbin and Associates for professional engineering services for solid waste. And item number 4, request approval of addendum number 3 to contract 378621 with Sauter Miller and Associates for professional engineering services for solid waste.
Mr. Mayor. Councilman Martinez.
The only thing I have to ask about the consent agenda is going to be, are these as needed, or, they're only as requested, correct?
And I believe,
I know that,
Travis is in here, but
I know that Travis is here.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Shani Muniz. I am Interim Director Martinez's administrative assistant. To answer your question, Councilor, yes, they are on an as-needed basis.
That's all I needed to ask.
with that, I'll entertain a motion.
And I move that we approve 4 consent agenda items.
Motion by Councilor Casey, do I have a second? Second by Councilman Martinez. Roll call.
Councilor Ivey,
Yes.
Councilor Montoya,
Yes,
Councilor Casey, Councilor Martinez.
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Casey, a second by Councilor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor.
Lieutenant Dwyer.
Mr. Manager, request that you move on to item number 3 and item number 4. Some projects in that solid waste department. Thank you.
Moving on to our business items. Business item number 3, request selection and approval to award audit contract for fiscal year 2024 and subsequent years financial audit for the city of Las Vegas of the 2 top proposers being Patillo Brown and Neal or the Guadalupe County Group. We have our finance director, Mr. Morrison Drift.
Mayor and council, good evening. I want to give you just a very brief background on the process that's required to select an audit firm. It's a request for proposals, like any other contract. A committee was appointed. I was not a member of the committee. I did request the members of the committee to participate, and I helped guide them through the process. But I was not one of the scoring members. The state auditor has previously put out criteria that we should use to rank them, and they are such things as qualifications of their staff, their education, their experience, especially relative to government audits. They must also pass a peer review. They have to be in good standing, and the state auditor, they have to be on the state auditor's approved list. We also look at their audit plan in the proposal, and one of the least important items is the cost. In this case, they came out fairly closely, and the audit committee basically came down to a dead even choice of 2 audit firms. The firms of Patillo, Brown and Hill and the Jaramillo County Group. You have those proposals before you. I would like to give you my evaluations of them, pros and cons of either one. the Patillo, Brown and Hill has been our auditors for the last 3 years. That gives them institutional knowledge that provides less orientation and less cost to the finance staff. If you bring in new auditors, they have to be kind of educated as to our processes, they have to reevaluate our internal controls, and they have to learn what we do. The other side to that is by changing auditors, you get a fresh, a new viewpoint. And there's pros and cons to either one. The state auditor's rule allows for, has allowed for up to 8 years. There's a proposal to change it to 6 years. This would fall into either one of these groups. As far as cost, Patillo, Brown and Hill was a little bit less over a 3-year period, and theirs was constant. So there's both financial cost by paying for the audit, and there's a cost to our staff by dealing with the auditors. So the committee recommended an equal weight for each of the 2 firms, and I'm sure that one of you is going to say, Mr. Madrid, what do you think? So I am going to recommend the firm of Patillo, Brown and Hill. And ask for your approval.
So I know that you mentioned that an audit firm can be set up for up to 8 years, is that correct?
They can do it for up to 8 years. You cannot contract with them for 8 years. But they could be selected, let go, and then brought back.
Okay, I was always under the understanding that maybe audit firms would be like set up for maybe 3 years, and then after that, they would have to be out.
That used to be the rotation years back. However, and a few years back also, when the peer review process started, this was primarily due to all the issues with the savings and loans and the sale of audit opinions and reports and things like that. The standards were raised so that every audit firm that was going to be doing governmental audits had to be reviewed by an independent firm, and they actually go into the office and look at their procedures, their qualifications, the work papers on certain audits. The auditors get audited for the quality of their work. That has shrank the number of audit firms that are available to do government audits. So thus they extended the time period.
Well, I do like one of the items that you said, one of the things that you said, Mr. Madrid, was the fact that when you choose a new audit firm, you kind of bring in new ideas, you reevaluate, possibly even differently. Okay? And I know that's one of the, the choices that you make, whether you choose one or the other. I guess I would probably recommend, just my personal opinion, is to change to something new. We're a different team today, based on the fact that, of course, Mayor and city manager, we moved on from the last, last year. I would probably, based on the information that I've seen and read, I would probably make a recommendation to choose the Jaramillo Accounting Group. But, there again, I know that you and your staff have to work with these individuals, and I know it's probably difficult to get started. I just would like to see change occur. And I mean, that's my recommendation. I'm gonna have to make a motion for that. Yeah.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second so we can have the discussion? If there's discussion prior, that was the order of the motion, so we can need a second before the discussion.
Motion does for lack of a second.
And that's what I'm saying.
The Las Vegas City School Board, been there for the last 5 months or so, uses Patillo, Brown and Hill. And I was very impressed with them because, first of all, I had some of the same concerns that Councilor Martinez has about what they've been doing for a long time. But yes, the firm has the contract with the district. However, they send a different set of auditors each year. So it's not the same auditor looking at the same material over and over and over again. It's a new set of eyes with different ideas, and they come in and they do a really thorough job. And what impressed me about the presentation that they did for us just this month was that they were very thorough, they explained everything completely. All of our questions were answered, and I felt very comfortable in knowing that although they had been there for a long time, they've been a different set of auditors from their firm that had come in to do the audit. And so I feel comfortable with them to be doing the audit in the city. I don't know the Jaramillo accounting group, but I did get to meet the people from Patillo, Brown and Hill, and they were very impressive.
Thank you. So I'll entertain a motion and additional discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept part of Patillo, Brown and Hill as our auditors.
Motion by Pro Tem Montoya, second.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Councilor Casey.
Mr. Mayor.
Discussion.
Yeah, and the simple reason is because I think the last years they've done a wonderful job. And there's truly, they've been using different people. And I think that our staff is already kind of like in tune with this auditing firm. So I don't even know, well, I guess it's a little bit cheaper too, the staff.
Yes.
So that's expensive also. I like change too, don't get me wrong, Mr. Martinez. But I think we're been improving, and anything that we have asked and we are able to ask as auditors, and anything that you want to be checked into, investigated into, or audited, you can sit down with them and they will look into that stuff. So,
Discussion, allow more discussion.
Okay. I'm in favor of going ahead and agreeing with, as long as, like Councilor Casey mentioned, a new set of fresh eyes gets to revisit, that information, I'm more than fine with that.
Give the opportunity, Councilman, anybody, do you have anything to talk? Roll call.
Councilor Ivey,
yes.
Councilor Martinez,
Yes.
Councilor Casey,
Yes.
Councilor Montoya,
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, second by Councilor Casey. Mr. Mayor, motion carries. Moving on to item number 4, request approval of grant agreement amendment number 1 between the Municipal Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, Community Development Block Grant number 21 CNR I-01-G-03. Mr. Mitchell.
Mayor and Council, this amendment is an easy one because it has no match. This is additional funding that was made available by the Department of Finance and Administration Community Development Block Grant Program for the amount of $511,600 for the Hot Springs paving and drainage project. Your approval is required.
Discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the amendment for the additional $511,600 to extend the Hot Springs Boulevard project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilor Casey, a second by Councilman by Pro Tem Montoya. Roll call.
Councilor Martinez,
Yes.
Councilor Montoya,
Yes.
Councilor Casey,
Yes.
Councilor Ivey,
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Casey, second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, motion carries.
People are going to be so happy.
Moving On to item number 5, request approval of resolution 2417 to accept supplemental funding that was available for DFA for the shortfalls of CBD projects in order to complete projects that were over budget during the bid process, the amount being $511,600. We have our public works manager, Mr. Denver.
Mayor and Council, I'm here to seek approval of resolution 2417 for additional funding for hot springs. Do you have any questions? This will be to complete nails to Water Street. It was a shortfall that we had when we went out on the bid process.
Motion by Councilor Casey, the second. Councilor Martinez, roll call.
Councilman Toya?
Yes.
Councilor Casey? Yes. Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Martinez?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Casey, second by Councilor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Is it possible to apply for one for independence? Or is that be next year?
That'll be next year, so all the grant requests that we submitted this year. We're starting to see them. So let's see what we got.
Moving on to item number 6, request approval to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Tierra Encantada Farmers Market for the term of 1 year from July 1st, 2024 to July 1st, 2025. We have our community development director, Mr. Lucas Martinez.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Bringing the contract for Terra Encantada Farmers Market. I know it's a little bit late. They did have a little bit of a shakeup in their chain of command. Ms. Cordia had gone ahead and turned, I guess her partner had passed away, and she turned powers over to a gentleman by the name of Shane Flores. So he approached us a little bit late. Therefore, we made a little bit of changes to the original memo of understanding. And it's going to be for a term of 1 year from July 1st, 2024 to July 1st, 2025. Winter hours are going to still be the same thing. They're just going to cut them down as their harvest slows. There are some events that they want to have, and I told them they could get with us and give it according to the memorandum that they would have to give it to us in writing, and we have to discuss it before we could have any special events. Other than that, everything is pretty much similar. It's going to be $2 per vendor that would come to the city, and they'd be using the same property that they've been using over by Allsup's on the Four Corners.
Mr. Marcus, liability insurance and all that, is that on them or on the city?
That'll have to be on them, sir, because that's their thing, so I'll make sure that we check into it before we sign any contracts.
The other part that was wondering, the change in this leadership, I guess you could say, within the organization, the status of nonprofit and all that is still in effect.
501c3 is in effect, and I'll go ahead and verify with Mr. Flores that he kept it up to date, but I'll get that answer back to you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, so do they have use of the building itself as well?
Mayor, Council, no, they don't use the building whatsoever. What they do is they utilize the parking lot. What the city is responsible for is providing them with a porta potty, and we clean that up on a regular basis.
Councilman Mike?
Thank you, because
Yes, sir.
I know that Korea's that's safe and Diana passed away. There were two people that were taking care of that facility there. And they did have a lot of farmers coming in and selling the goods and everything. I'm happy that you're working with that. Mr. Philip is taking over. And I think on this contract, it looks like everything's almost the same. We changed the last year. We need something back. We need some back over there so we have the same people, all the citizens who must have this goal and use them to present that area. Thank you for doing that for us.
Yes, sir, Council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll entertain a motion to this agreement.
That's a motion by Councilman Martinez, second by Councilman Rivera.
Councilor Casey?
Yes.
Councilor Martinez?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Martinez, second by Councilor Rivera. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Mayor, item number 7, request approval of resolution number 2416, a resolution establishing reasonable notice of city council meetings in compliance with the Open Meetings Act.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Lieutenant Montoya, do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Counselor Ivey,
Yes.
Counselor Martinez,
Yes.
Counselor Casey, Counselor Montoya.
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, second by Counselor Casey. Mr. Mayor, motion please. Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, discussion possible direction regarding the Fiesta Committee. Mayor Romero.
So councilors, I know, of course, this item was to discuss next year's fiesta, which unfortunately, decision to stop at the city manager for this year, to go ahead and cancel based off of the situation that we're in. But this item was asked to be by Councilman Martinez to, and actually at last meeting, to see if we could start the discussion on discussion and direction about the Fiesta Committee. I know in the past we had one. I did want to discuss basically some of the issues that I know the reasons why Mr. Martinez thought of having a committee. But I did want to Mr. Lucas Martinez and Joe Ray kind of come up and kind of as to the reasons why in the past we came to this situation, some of the issues with
Yes, sir.
one of the questions that I know that Councilman Martinez had is, certain bands in that way would be invited, and I just thought it would be appropriate to kind of, contract issues, stuff like that, and we'll just touch up a little bit, and then I guess most of the discussion will be amongst us on moving forward if we look at that.
Sure. Yes, Mayor, Council, so particular bands that we reached out to, had different contracts. They didn't want to go with the city's contract, they wanted us to go with their contract. Examples are, they wanted us to pay taxes and they didn't have to pay taxes. And no pictures allowed and stuff of that nature. And that it didn't fit with our contracts. So we didn't move forward with those bands in particular. It was nothing that we had against that band. We wanted those people, that's why we reached out to them in the first place. It just, we couldn't come to terms with our contracts versus their contracts. So we moved forward with the bands that wanted to agree with our contracts.
But to be clear, is that we move forward a contract like any other musician that agrees to it, they weren't going to accept that contract.
Yes, yes, sir.
And then as far as the committee, Mr. Chuck, and I think this probably happened before you know, the decision of the city versus the committee. I don't know how much knowledge you have towards that.
So when the Chamber of Commerce and other entities had the contract for Fiestas, they had a 501c3. They, at that point, they would come to the city for lodgers tax money. And that worked out well with them because they were their own entity. When the city took it over, everything became in-house. So while I've been with the city, we did have a committee, and they were really frustrated because there's really nothing for them to do because it's all in-house. Whether it's coordinating with PD or safety or fire or works, it's all handled in-house. There really is there isn't anything for the committee to do.
Mr. Mayor, Rodriguez.
Yeah, no, just a couple of questions. I'm not sure, when did it revert to where we're at today?
I came back to the city in 2018 and we did have a committee and that's what happened.
Was that last year that it was?
Yes.
It was working, I guess, like that?
Well, the committee was just really frustrated because there was nothing.
And my point to making Fiesta Council would be for the items that we have an extra set of eyes on how it's, put out there. And, not only just one or two extra items, we'd have a committee that would be able to determine direction on And not only for that, but also for help, to help out, that committee would help to grade, they be helping, set up all this, all the entities that come in, bands, staging, to get different ideas. I mean, if we were down to just 3 council members here, the ideas would be a lot less, I guess is what I'm gonna say. So my idea was, just to try to get a council going so that we can try to also promote our city a little bit different. And I understand that the contracts that you mentioned, they have to follow the contract that we do have. But maybe there's to some reasoning that our contract needs to be reevaluated. So I don't know if that needs to take place or not. All I can tell you is, there has been some friction, some bands and so forth. Maybe we need to at least revisit that idea to find out if those contracts make any sense. Either way, whether it's in favor of the city or not. So,
The contract was before the city attorney.
no, and I understand, but how long has that been that they revisited that?
I think it was about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, around there, when they revisited it.
I just still go back and say that I strongly believe and feel that, having, yes, the committee brings involvement, to that function. And it takes a lot of burden off the people that we do have, that's what I think. So I'm still on that page that I do recommend that. I don't know how the other councilors feel, but that's myself.
Yes, sir, Councilman.
Councilman Buddy?
Thank you. On the last sister committee was, 2 years ago? I think it broke down, I think, I don't know what happened to the committee, but it broke down for some, 2 pounds as a committee or something like that. I do agree that we need a sister committee, because that way we can work with each other, work with distributors. Because we do, that's one of our biggest events that we have in small town. It brings a lot of people in love it, and the things that some of the men, people that are coming, that are a little concerned about the way they get paid or once they get paid, or, because we do bring big bands in there, and the things that with a committee we can make maybe better decisions or work with you guys so we can keep on bringing these people in. I just want to make sure that we can get some people that will be in that community. Thank you, guys.
I don't know, I've been involved to a certain extent, maybe more of observation with just the committee the last 2 years. And I noticed there's some stuff that needs to be worked out. But overall, I don't think that we need to get a committee because this avoids all the red tape by having it in-house. And why reinvent the wheel? I think staff, Lucas here now, in addition to Chuck had a big load on himself. And now with Lucas, I think it's working a lot better. I think this year's worked little down. I think that again, there's issues, and I think that the salaries on the bands need to be adjusted accordingly. There's got to be some kind of scale that's fair for everyone. And also scheduling people Friday or Saturday needs to be fair and not a big name and just everybody that that wants to be on a Saturday show can be on a Saturday show. So that needs to be worked on. And then I would also include that we need to include the grand marshal in our schedule. Whoever's going to be on the grand marshal, that's appointed by the mayor. I think that should be on the schedule of publications. Everything else we do. And to begin with, You guys all report, staff reports to mayor and council, the mayor and council gives direction. They decide if we want to parade, they decide if they want fireworks, they decide, anything about the fiestas. So, I think having a committee, we've had a committee, and they've been pretty active, with the pageant and also with the rest of it. And then we approve all the lodger's tax funding that goes through there, whether it's for bands or publication or for whatever it is. So I don't quite see the role of the outside committee. And then you're putting committee members at a position where they're having to deal with funds. That's another thing. And that's a danger zone too. So I think it works better in-house, and if we want to have a committee that's volunteers, that's fine. But I think mayor and council and staff are the ones that ultimately to direct that funding and direct that direction of the event. So, we had an additional event that was supposed to happen this year that mayor and council was working on also, and it didn't happen. So. With regrets again, canceling the fiestas is something that we must do, something that we have no control over right now. We must. We can't afford to have it out until that's not the subject here. The subject is the committee, and I think in-house is the right thing to do, and asking volunteers to participate from the community. I'm okay with that. That's my 2 cents worth.
Again, this was discussion and possible direction to see a consensus anywhere in the direction. Discussion.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I just, a couple of things were pointed out by Pro Tem in reference to pay and fair, this and that. And I think if, I guess I don't mind that it's gonna go a different way. The problem is that we have to set the stakes on it. And that discussion needs to be taken at what, of course, not, right, absolutely not. And I understand that we gotta have some kind of format to be able to be fair. If that's what it is, okay. And I'd like to see a committee. I wasn't involved in those committees prior to me coming on. I couldn't tell you how well or not well they worked. So I would just probably take direction from you, Mr. Mayor.
So what I would ask, I guess, my input into this, I think we've got to look at our items of improvement within the fiesta trade. One of them is probably the equality of pay. Trying to look at that. That might be a point of action and direction. The other is possibly the more input of cancellation. I think that's been something common amongst the governing body that I think you guys have concern. So we could kind of a plan of action on those 2 items and maybe bring that here next meeting or so. And then as we move forward, tackle those and a plan is, made. And at that point, if we feel we need some public volunteers or however we need to tackle those 2 points, I think that's something that we'll look at as well.
Sounds fair. And good part is that we have a year to.
Not really, but 2 days start.
No, it starts, but we have a year to have the event.
So I guess direction would be, Mr. City Manager, if that's a consensus of the council, as we tackle those 2 points of action.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, so we were talking with the bands, we had the idea of just, since the community wasn't able to see this lineup this year, there was a lot of comments, but people really like the lineup this year. So we told the bands that they were willing to keep their position for next year. And that way we could bring the same show for next year. And the bands were, 90% of them agreed.
I think you need to start all over again. It didn't happen this year. Next year is a different ballgame, and I think you need to start all over again on the scheduling and the homeworks, on salaries and homeworks from scratch.
Yes, sir.
But I think that Mayor and Council, I think they need to come to Mayor and Council and give us reports. At least 4 times before the fiestas as to what's going on and this and the other. Because, I think we've been updated maybe twice for this fiestas, maybe. So I think we need to have that report. And again, with the committee, it's hard for the committee to go ask the chief about road patrol and all this and the other, or, they don't have the knowledge or the experience that staff does. And staff already knows what solid waste does, what the police department does. They already have input with it, and it's a lot easier to coordinate and start fresh.
So I guess on that also, the action plan would be quarterly updates that we should.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Moving on to the last item number 10, review, discussion, and approval regarding city hall repair costs. The city manager, and safety officer, Adrian.
So, Mayor and Council, I've talked about the building in a while, or I think it feels like a long time ago, the last few days. City Hall is still sitting there in place. The remediation is taking place. As far as, if you think of the basement first, the subfloor had been removed, all of the items in the basement had been taken out. That area had been cleaned. Going upstairs, we originally had the first phase of cleaning all the solid surfaces and so forth. We felt like the building had been completed for the mold remediation. After air sampling had been done, it came back, the second time we did air sampling, there was still mold in the air samples in the finance director's office and the city manager's office. And so we moved into the next phase, or phase 2, of removing sheet rock from the city manager's office, as well as windows along the west side of the building. There was testing done in the walls to really get to the root of what was causing the continued air sample problems. That was also done in the finance director's office. We're at a point now where the effort of moving forward and replacing sheet rock back on the walls is at a standstill, because the biggest driver along that west wall of the building is the way the windows were installed and the way water was able to get into those walls. We could go ahead and put the sheet rock back up and leave the windows as is, and we'll have it all again. Or I don't know how long that would take. Or the other option would be go ahead and invest more money into replacing those windows and be able to do the construction repairs, as well as fixing the issue down in the basement, which had to do with ductwork that is basically worn out. And Mr. Armito over here probably tell us a little bit more, but the ductwork needs work, the HVAC system needs work, and those windows along the west wall need work. I can turn it over to you this morning.
So downstairs in the basement, we had asbestos tape on the ducting system. So we removed all that, so now all the ductwork needs work. So what ADM proposed is that we do a full HVAC and the ductwork, because right now all we're doing is drying the material from downstairs and pumping it upstairs. And with that amount of dirt coming in, that creates a lot of mold, creates just a hazardous environment if we do have mold downstairs. Now that we removed all the mold, we have to address our ductwork, HVAC, reduce the amount of water coming in on the west side during storms. They're gonna resurface everything, flash it, and then the total amount that we do have in front of you, that does pertain to rebuild and putting in new systems.
Mr. Mayor.
Martinez.
Mr. Jaramillo, did City Hall, get any damage because of the flooding that was there because of all the water ended up pooling on both sides of City Hall? Was there any damage because of the water?
No, I mean, we had our usual down the stairs in the back, I go downstairs, but that's pretty typical.
Just a little bit of flooding downstairs is what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
I was moving, clean up. That was a lot of water, that's why I got it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, it looked like a couple of very large Olympic pools outside. So the amount that's on this page, the amount of 89,000, I believe, that is for the windows and for the repairs to the
What we,
HVAC system?
yes, sir, and what we tore out. So if you recall, the back bathrooms, we gutted it all. We had a significant amount of mold in the flooring and in the walls itself. So we removed all that, and this is gonna replace all that.
City Manager, do we have the funding to go to take care of this, and we can move forward with the irrigation on this?
I defer to our finance team, but my personal opinion is we have the funding there, we just may have to do a bar to adjust the budget. This, for the revenue to come into the budget as well as the expenditure.
Is this item just discussion, or is it to direction?
And if I can just say my 2 cents is, I think this emergency that we're dealing with has made it very difficult. I think from a standpoint as to, number one, the limited space that we're currently in. The city manager making sure an office and that's become the command center. So the city manager dealing with everyday stuff right now, which is probably very limited due to the nature of everything that's going on. And it's hard for all of the staff, right? And they're all over trying to help. And I think it's proven as to everything that we need to be all in one building, so we can all feel like we're part of what's going on in the emergency, right? I think that's been difficult. And I know that there's a concern about the amount that it's gonna cost to fix it, but we don't have no immediate remedies. I know we're looking at purchase a building, we're looking at renting. Those are not options anymore. I want to stress that I feel that for this emergency crisis, I feel like we as a city have not been able to be cohesive as we should during the crisis. And I'll just say that it's proven that we need to all be together.
Mayor and council, the city manager is correct. We do have funding available. We don't have it in place. We just have to move it. But we can handle this financially, not a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, this is a, 1950s building? Donated by the DOT back in the day. Your father worked at DOT. You know, my concerns are this. We still have mold in that building. I feel we're gonna risk the health of the employees. And I know we're in a crisis now, but we'll be at a crisis later on down the road. If anybody starts getting sick. We haven't even looked at the roof to see what's happening in between the roof. The same way we hadn't looked at the walls before.
If I may,
deciding
sir,
to look at the walls.
real quick, we did clean the building. It is clean.
They will,
We don't have any mold in the building anymore. No, the remediation went through and we're good.
and how much have we spent on that building already?
The initial stage, I believe, was it right around 79 or 80,000 for the remediation?
We have a purchase order in place for up to 129,000. We've spent 76,000.
How much have we spent out of the 129?
76,000.
Sorry. And now we're gonna spend another 89 if approved. You know, I've said since day one that City Hall should be number one priority to the legislature and to this mayor and council. And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna stick with my position that I'm not gonna spend a penny on that building. I think our employees deserve better, our community deserves better. I believe that we have funding available, if not partial. We have a good chunk that we could invest, and to that we didn't look at the investments on today's agenda. But I think that we need to move forward with the new plan for the city hall. That's my recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Olivari.
I'm thinking differently. We have all our city employees all over the town. It's frustrating for them, you know. I know we took care of some of the mold and rain at our city hall. I think we need to go back to our city hall. And this coming year, this 2-3 years, we can go and see what we can look at, the city office. But the things that our employees are all over the place, they're frustrated. Since we already spend that much money on it, we need a little bit more into that, a little more money in there, we need to use that and get all our employees back over that. Then we can start fresh and we can start looking on that building, get on doing it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to kind of caution the governing body, this is not an either or. You can have both. You can repair the building and still look at the building.
My personal opinion is that we should fix the building and immediately start looking for an alternative to that. And use it as a temporary place to be, if it's 1 or 2 years or even longer. So we can find something that's suitable and affordable, because the buildings that have been presented to us are outrageously priced, in my opinion, and need a lot of work to get fixed. So our best bet would be to continue to look for something while we continue to use what we have.
Mr. Mayor, I would agree to that only because the displacement of employees has been a huge interruption for them. Of course, yeah, we do have to repair the building, it's still our building. And that building can be utilized for something else down the road. I believe strongly and I can maintain that needs to a certain degree. I know it's got a downstairs, I know it's got some possible flood issues, the spaces that are in there. I think it needs to be moved up in the priority list so that we can look for the option of hopefully putting a new city hall at one point in the near future and not wait too long. It's a good request, you know, that Hotel was asking for. I will always want to strive for something better and newer for city staff and directors, of course. At this point, I think it's just really important to make it right, put them in there. And we really need to seek alternative options and hopefully we can come to. And I don't want to wait 2-3 years. I think we need to start investigating it soon so that we can go ahead and find possibly, of course, a relocation, maybe a better location, maybe in the downtown area. I'm not sure, those are still options that we need to investigate, of course, but I mean, I do like the option of repairing something that's there, $160,000 is what it would take to get this building that kind of speed. Is that, am I saying that right? Because of past remedies that we put into the building, plus whatever we're gonna, it is a big chunk of money. But if it buys us enough time to look for alternatives and hopefully seek alternative monies from, the state, maybe federal government, I don't know how we can, get to that point. We just need to find a way to do it. And I hope I'm still definitely part of this team so that we can see that happen.
So, I'll entertain, approval or not.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve, the repair costs for, personnel.
Motion by Councilor Casey, and second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Ivani, roll call.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
No.
Counselor Ivani?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Ivani. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, motion carries.
Mr. City Manager, Adrian, is it possible, and I know construction is gonna take a while, over a couple months away, but is it possible, and I know everybody that they're saying this connected to this topic, but I'd like to see if we could, whether it's security and safety, secure city hall, so we can start our meetings next month at City Hall. Is that possible?
Yes, it is.
Get you guys to know this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before we adjourn here, I'll just apologize to everybody. Tim, thank you for starting off the meeting. I was able to receive a call with the governor. We've been in contact back and forth. I know our community, the business community, they have employees that are out of work. And I don't know how much of a city manager gave an update on our water situation, but I think it's important. Of course, this meeting was already planned according to OMA Friday before the storm, so the storm wasn't even in our picture when this was approved in order, to give proper public notice. But I think it's important that we kind of give an update on where we are with water. I'll give my update, the call I received from the governor. I had reached out earlier to ask her where we were, if there's a possible way to speed up the unemployment benefits. They're still working on it. Hopefully, her team will be call tonight first thing in the morning. So we're continuing to have those conversations at the state level. We haven't forgotten the business community. We haven't forgotten the employees. Mr. City Manager, I don't know if you have updates as far as water and where we're at and what's happening in that situation.
Yes, sir. And if I may, before doing that, I'd like to express working in the command center and the amount of work and the intensity of what we're learning and going through it's an incredible experience. I apologize for anybody that has called and hasn't had immediate responses to my staff. I appreciate all of you who've kept our departments running. I don't want to get emotional, but you're our backup. And I want to say thank you. I apologize for so much distance. We are moving forward and we're going to get through this. It's been quite the experience. What I will say is the good news, we are not only producing water at about 1,450 gallons a minute. We've been operating with producing water since Monday. We also started having trucks of water running that we can run through the filtration system. At this point, we're not out of the woods. We are still very much in a crisis mode. We have been monitoring our water level several times through the day, but more importantly, importantly, we've been watching what the water level is at 8 o'clock in the morning. We meet at 8:30 each morning with the Department of Homeland Security and all of us here locally that are working together. We meet at 8:30 every morning to go water counts, and we do the same thing again at 5 o'clock, when we're looking at our 4 o'clock water counts. When I go back at 8 o'clock this morning, we were looking at the 24-hour period from 8 o'clock yesterday morning to 8 o'clock this morning, and we were happy to see that along with the water production and the usage that was taking place in town, we had increased our reserves in our tanks by 315,000 gallons. And we're really optimistic. I will say though, as hard as the community is working to preserve water, our afternoon counts are not reflecting the same thing. And as a matter of fact, it looks like we're potentially hoarding water or using it. We started out at 6 o'clock last night. We had 3.6 million gallons in the system. Tonight we have 3.7 million gallons in the system. We're not increasing at the rate that we want to. We produced over the last 24 hours 2,088 gallons of water, and we consumed 1.996 million gallons. So we only increased our reserves by 56,250 gallons. And so you'll continue seeing public service announcements coming out to try to explain the situation that we're in. But with this last reading, it's showing that we are consuming more water today in the last 24 hours than we do on an average basis daily. We typically use 1.5 to 1.7 million gallons, and we've had an increase. So that's alarming. And so as a team, we're going to sit down and really keep watching the usage. We're excited to have the trucks of water coming in, but that's not a surplus of water. What that is it's water coming in. We have potential storms out here. If we have a storm come through, we have flooding, our Guyanus River is going to be closed down, and we're only going to have reserves to work with. And so not increasing our reserves and actually using more is not a good picture. So we'll continue sending PSAs out. I understand the frustration with the businesses. There's a lot of frustration because of loss of income and loss of support among the community. But if we don't make a radical change, we're not going to get businesses to run. We're going to run out of water. And so I know I sound harsh, and I harped on this over the last couple of meetings, but we're in a crisis mode because we do still have storms coming along that can completely shut down our water sources. So we have one very good thing coming down the pipeline. This is going to take us about a week and a half, and that's a pre-water treatment plant that can draw water out of Peterson Dam or Bradner Dam, go through its process and really get that turbidity level down low enough that we can take the output and run it through a filtration system of our own and be producing again. But if the consumption doesn't go down, we're going to be in danger. When I say that we have 3.7 million gallons, I do want to emphasize we have 3 different zones within the city. With those zones, we can't just say we have 2 days of water. One zone has a half day, one has a day and a half, another has a half day. So we have to find ways to start moving that water around the zones, and that's not an easy thing to do. So we can't just generalize and say we have 2 days of water stashed. That's not the case.
And then I think to also add to that, Mr. Manager, I think also the update is, some positive news is that wells 4 and 6 have been getting tested. Hopefully here in the next day and a half or so, we'll start producing into the Valencia tank. There was some permitting issues on that I think that was taken care of. And it's another testing, but that's the positive that also has been happening, that they're getting up and going. We continue to say there's some light, but not even in the beginning of the tunnel, right? There's still some concern for the big storms, and right now we're okay, but we don't know what's happening in the top, the storms, if they're getting up in the watershed. So just because we see it sunny here, we don't know what's happening in the watershed. I know sheriff and, a lot of the emergency chiefs, trying to mitigate as much as we can in preparation for each storm, but, there's just, the reality is we gotta be very careful and make sure that we have enough water and just kind of be prepared for another storm like this just in case. So we gotta try to basically conserve as much as we can. I know this is not on the agenda, but I think it's important let the public know. Unfortunately, we couldn't add it on the agenda because of OMB, but I think that was something.
Recognizing the needs from the community too, we are, there's so many different efforts taking place, and some are in very early stages, and some are a little bit closer to fruition, that we're looking at bringing in pods as well for showering options. We've looked at a couple different pod sizes, and we believe that having 2 pods that will include shower facilities, laundry facilities, and the crew to help clean them and maintain them. They bring the water in. I think that having 2 of those in town, placed in different locations, could help with the water consumption. And I think that's where some of the concern is can we take showers and can we do laundry? And I think that may be causing people to hoard more water in tanks. And so we've done a lot of work to try to help control even purchasing the tanks, because it may help one family, but it hurts the rest of the city. And so we're looking at a lot of different things.
And as far as the laundry, there's also the concern that's, laundromats were closed, and that's a necessity of some families that depend on the laundromats. So that's, one of the efforts. The other effort that's being made, as we know, and this is beyond the city of Las Vegas control. The state, the state, the HSEN, National Guard, they're the ones that are producing the sandbags, and we know the frustration within the community on the sandbags. That's beyond our control. I personally have reached out to mayors that I've met with through the time, and through this little bit of time that I've been mayor. The Mayor of Estudillo has reached out, their public works department, with a couple of other mayors. That's, reaching out to other communities to see if they'll help us, because I know that if they were in this situation, they'd be offering that same help. So we're not just depending on the state, we're also, as the city, trying to do what we can and not be at the mercy of anybody. And I think just to kind of update you guys on those situations. We're also working with Mr. City Manager, 2 different points of distribution with water right now. We're depending on FEMA and the HSEN. We're looking at, we know how, the need for water, so we're looking at 2 distribution points, we get in a contract on that, so that way we don't have the frustrations that we're having, the pileups of cars, the angry, when they get there in line and we run out, because right now they're only bringing 2 semi-loads. Production is supposed to start coming up to 5, I believe, tomorrow. All those, other communities frustrated with that, the mercy of the availability, beyond anything beyond our control. But I think we're being proactive in looking at outside sources, which is in control of the city, in addition to what the state is providing. So, a lot of things are going on, a lot of meetings, and I personally want to apologize to all my council here. I know I haven't, briefed you on everything, but it seems like I finish one meeting, I'm not able to read, and I go to another one. I think the city manager feels the same. I know some of you have jumped in and kind of, stepped in some of the meetings and that, and I appreciate that. But if I have ever, if you feel, communication hasn't been there, I know I've asked all of communication, PSAs, everything, there's a step up on one of them. But all I can do, I can't fix that past. All I can do is try to be, as proactive and communicate better with you guys. And I promise to do that. And I apologize if any of you guys have felt that I haven't done that. But let's move forward. And it's a situation that I hope that this was So that's what we have to deal with and move forward, but we know that this crisis isn't over. We know that the storms are still coming and it's gonna get worse. But, as we go through this, we all learn. And, Mr. City Manager, I personally want to thank you because, you know, the time that, we're all putting in, you know, and all the employees, you know, those first couple of days, 16, 18 hours, and we get home, but we're still not sleeping, because we're thinking about everything else. You know, thank you, everybody that's a part of this, because we're gonna get through this, and it's gonna take all of us. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Meeting adjourned.